Hi everybody, this is Patrick from Sasquatch in the Wild, and this is the last installment of this story, but it is not the last installment of this area. This place for the past, oh God, how many years is it? Almost 8 years, has yielded a lot of crazy insights, a lot of crazy discoveries, a lot of crazy things. I've heard crazy vocals, not like the ooh crap that you hear on TV and some craziness that you hear on Facebook or YouTube. No, there's other vocals that are just weird little responses to things. And I've got a lot of little videos that I can talk about, which I probably will. I might just do another little one that happened the last time. I think it was like 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. That was kind of intriguing. And that's going to be a short video. It's only going to be about 10 minutes long. I don't think it'll be near as big as this. But so the last time you heard, I just experienced. I think we're coming down to morning. In fact, it was morning, and Mike's asleep. Everybody's asleep. They're still asleep. Mike ended up passing out and going to sleep. I want to say he fell asleep probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in there, and I heard something come walking up. Now, when I heard it, I could see its silhouette walking between my tent and Mike's tent. Mike's tent's a heavy canvas tent, and it's hard to see shadows. Unless you're inside and you have a bright light on, you can see what's going on technically inside that tent. But in my tent, because it's a thin fabric, you can see things walking by, and there was an individual that came walking up. I was sitting in my cot, just listening to sounds, filling my bladder, just starting to give me some severe pain, and it was hurting. If you ever had a UI, this is exactly what it feels like, and it is just the most insane pain. Now, usually I don't cry. I have a hard time crying. And it's not because I'm a guy. An injury a long time ago kind of twisted things for me, and I usually start laughing. The more pain I'm in, the longer I laugh, and that's my cure-all, because I start laughing. If you ever get to know me and you see me in pain and you see me laughing and it's almost uncontrollable, it's because I am in some severe pain. Besides that, I notice an individual. Now I start looking through my cameras real fast. I grab my one camera. I'm going through it. All my batteries are dead. I'm like, no. And I can see him moving towards the window. Now, my windows are at a slant. And there's a piece of fabric at the window that I'm looking at when I'm sitting up and I'm looking out the main window where I can see the firing. I've got another window right here. And that other window has a piece of fabric that's hanging off. Now, the fabric is part of the tent, and I can actually take that and secure it to block out people from peering in. But I left it to hang, and I was watching this individual come up, and I was like, oh my God. So I got on my cot, and I quietly went over, and I was looking for something that I could record this with. And what I found was my night vision camera. Turned it on, powered it up, and I had juice. I still had battery life. So I started looking at it, going through the settings quickly, because this guy's looking into my tent. He's looking to the window. And the crazy thing is, that window is like this big, right? So if you're looking at my window, it's kind of something like this, right? So when I look out, I got space on either side. This guy's face takes up the entire width and then some. So this is a big individual peeking in. Now, with my night vision camera, as I'm looking through it, I'm going through my settings. Night vision doesn't work during daylight hours. It doesn't work well, and you can ruin your optics. So I started clicking through, and one of the settings I have on that thing is daylight vision. So I can record in daytime. So I started aiming it at him, and I started to try to zoom in, and then I discovered something. My camera cannot shoot through plastic. It has a hard time with it. And I'm trying to zoom in on him, so I'm going through the process to try to get the clearest images possible. But because the signals that are bouncing off the IR light that's still firing, it's hitting that plastic and it's causing kind of like a static disturbance. It's kind of strange, but it's like I always want to call it snow. It's not snow, and I'm drawing a blank on that stupid term because I keep remembering after the fact. But I'm looking at it, and on video you're gonna see it. So I'm gonna put the video right at this, about within 10 seconds of this. It's gonna post, and I'm gonna talk through it. But you're gonna see a face. It's gonna slowly appear, kind of like the one that was up in Yellowstone. Okay, so what you're about to see is a face in the window. The border that you see, that black line that goes all the way around it, that is the tent border window. And as I'm focusing in, I actually heard them come running up and saw a silhouette, and he starts to look in. But you're gonna see his face fairly quickly. It stands out. You can see the darkness of his eyes here in a second, and his nose will appear here shortly. And that's him right there. That's a Sasquatch looking in my tent. That's a Sasquatch, folks. This one's a little different because you're not going to see the mouth. This part of the face is what you're going to see, and you're going to see it up against the window. And it's only there for a few seconds. So what I decided I'm going to do with this video is that I am going to set up a series of copies across the board at the end of this, and you're gonna see, like, if you want to just fast forward it to the end, that's fine, but you're never gonna learn anything if you don't watch the videos. And that's the biggest thing about these videos, is you need to learn stuff. Even though my stories may be long and may be drawn on and carry on, you need to listen to it because there's things you're gonna learn off of it, what to do, what not to do. Okay, you need to understand those things, and you need to figure out what's going to work best for you. And I'm cutting out many of the middlemen parts, that you don't have to go through a lot of crap to do what you want to do, to see if you can get Bigfoot to come to you. You don't need to chase one down. You'll never get it. You'll never chase one down. You'll just never do it. It's like chasing a rabbit. You're never going to physically win, because the rabbit can outrun you, can outmaneuver you, and you're going to look like a fool. A Sasquatch will come to you. Once they're comfortable with you, they will come to you. Don't do stupid things, they will come to you. However, if it's kind of funny, they may sit there and snicker a little bit and think, I want to get to know that person. And that is actually factual. They will come to you. And they're not always mean, they're not always angry. A lot of times they're very relaxed. But this guy's looking in, and his eyes are bugging out. So as I'm going through this, I'm watching his eyeballs. I can't think of what the disease is called for humans, but there is a way where your eyeballs can actually pop out of your head, out of the sockets themselves, and they look like ping pong balls with little, all the coloring that you got going on. This guy's eyes was doing that while I was trying to get this thing setting up. I was watching his eyeballs just pop out of his head, and I was like, what the hell? And I'm watching his giant eyes, which are like this, popping out of his sockets, and his eyes are still, they're still looking, they're watching this fabric. And I don't know why he was so interested in the fabric, unless the distortion of the plastic was messing with his eyes, just like it was messing with the electronics on my camera. So I film him. I think I'm gonna guess it's about 10 to 15 seconds worth of filming before I went and he turned and looked right at me, and he got this like surprised look. His eyes went right back into his skull, and I said, what are you gonna do now? And he turned and he bolted. He stepped over every single guide rope, didn't touch one. I didn't hear one get hit. Every single Sasquatch that ran between my tent and Mike's tent maneuvered all of the guide ropes. I have more guide ropes on my tent than Mike does. And if you ever hit my tent with a flashlight, it looks like a spider web of all kinds of ropes coming down and holding my tent in place. It's pretty crazy. In fact, I should take a picture of that sometime and post it, show you. But I'm going to show you a picture of what the inside of my tent looks like. And I will either do it here or there. And I'll play the video. So after that guy left, I finally decided I had to go out. And the whole time that drumming was playing on, right? So I remember in the last video, I talked about how when Mike, Trent, and Scott, or the Elixes, went outside, that drumming changed. And it changed to a single beat. It was a single beat that was going on. When I stepped outside, it didn't change. That drumming kept playing the same pattern when I stepped outside. Mike, Trent, and Scott, and the Elixes, that drumming changed for them. When I stepped outside and all the activity was going on, they were pretty much done with the activity. And I was like, I could hear the drumming. And I was in so much pain, I could barely walk to a tree. And I got to a tree finally, and I finally did my business. I finally got to go to the bathroom. And that was the most painful piss I ever took in my entire life. That was horrible. I'll never let anybody tell me, no, you can't go outside. You can't do that. Mike's told me no a few times, and I shot out of the tent. I don't put have anybody tell me no unless there's an intimate, some type of danger sitting right outside, like a bear. A bear is dangerous. Sasquatch to me is not dangerous. Not at all. They're not dangerous. There's a lot of people that talk about how dangerous they are. I haven't seen it. I have not experienced it. But at that place, they were still playing that same beat, the same pattern that's playing in the background. And I was like, huh. So when I finally got done, I was looking straight ahead. I was looking due east. And I knew I was being stared down. I just didn't see the persons in question. I didn't see who they were. I couldn't tell. I couldn't see them. I kept looking. I was scanning the grass. I was scanning the trees. I was scanning the little hillside. And I couldn't see them. I was like, I know you're there. I know it. So I turned and I headed north. And I got onto the path and started walking north. And as I was going down that path, I started to hear what sounded like people standing up. Like they're all getting ready. They're all starting to stand up. I could hear what sounded like knees, kind of like they're like, oh crap, he's coming our direction, crap. And they started to stand, and I could see the silhouettes in the trees. I could see them. I counted 5 individuals, 3 adults, and 2 kids back there. I could count them. I could see the silhouettes in the trees. And I was like, wow, that's cool. That is really cool. And they started backing up. And they weren't turning around and walking away. They were backing up. And here's something that you may not ever know. A Sasquatch doesn't turn around and back and walk away. They will back up. And they will keep that distance away, whatever that buffer zone is, they will keep that buffer zone, to keep you away from them. Unless they want to come closer to you or they want to come up to your tent. But they'll keep that buffer. And as they got up and I was watching them, I finally stopped. They stopped. And I said, I'm not going to follow you. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I said, this was fun. And I said, thank you very much. And at that moment, for some reason, I acquired a greet. Something told me to do a certain movement to greet them. And at that moment, I gave them a bow. I gave them a little head nod to them. And I said, thank you. And I turned around, and as I started walking away, they turned then, and they walked away, disappearing into the trees. So then I just saw the trees kind of moving, and that was the end of that. I went walking back across. If you look at the map, I'll put the map up here. I go walking back across, and I turn, and I'm looking east, and I can see the trees doing this number. And up on this hill, I can make out 3 individuals, 2 adults and a kid. And I'm like, oh, cool. I did the same greet. I said, I'm not going to follow you. I said, this was fun. I hope to see you again. Give them a little nod. And they turned and they walked up, disappeared up into the forest above me. I was like, okay, that was cool. So I turned and I started walking south. Now, as I'm walking south, I'm going past my tent. And I still am to look down on the ground. And I see blueberries. Boop, 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 just sitting down there at the corner at the base of that where the tent curves, where I would normally look back and I could see the corridor. I was like, oh, I wonder if that tree is still there. And so I went walking back and I started following this area back in there, and I found the log. What's really funny about this log is that log was offset. They didn't put it back the way it was taken. So here's this area of dead grass, all dead, all the way underneath it, going all the way up to where the log was placed, but the log was offset about 10 inches. And I was like, oh, whoops, somebody missed that one. But all the blueberries were taken. All the sauce was like soaking into the bark. And I was like, okay. And in the background, I could hear kids running, jumping, skipping, going away from me. And this was the largest group running away from me. And I could hear individuals backing up. Now, when a Sasquatch backs up, they can't see what they're going to step on. And they were snapping, cracking, popping every single branch that they were stepping on. And I'm sure they're going, oh, no, oh, no. Because every step they took, you could hear a pop. You could hear a snap of a twig. And I was like, it's okay, guys. And I could see their silhouettes too. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to follow you. I gave them the greet. I bowed to them. At that moment, they turned. I could see them turning, and then they started walking away. And the kids were jumping and they were having fun, just skipping and carrying on. And it sounded like kids skipping and carrying on. And the amount of kids going back that direction sounded like there was about 5 or 6 of them going, just having fun, having a good old time because they got to hang out with me. Those people disappeared. Now, at the time, the drumming going on, the loudest drum, the one that's that direction, the sound is actually fading off that direction. I can still hear the single drum across the road. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go over to that road. So I turned around and I walked all the way back, and I went all the way to the end. Walked out into the road, and I looked around. It's just all quiet, but I can hear that double pattern sound coming off that knock going, or that drum going off into the distance, following that valley. Like they were just going off until that faded off. The single drum was now past the trees, down towards the river, and it's moving west. And you can hear the single knock heading that direction. The trees that were just kind of cattywampus from the entrance to our drive-in, there's a structure there, and it's hidden amongst these 2 trees. There's a structure there, and that up high, you could see the branches still doing this number. Like something had just gone through, and I was like, huh. And you could hear something slowly backing away here, but further on down, I can hear that single knock, or that single strike of whatever that drum is, or whatever it is that they're doing, and it's disappearing off towards the west. And I greeted, and I said thank you, but I'm not going to follow you. This was fun. I hope I get to see you again. I turned around, walked back into the campsite, went back into my sleeping bag. I finally got to go to sleep. I woke up around 11:30 in the morning because I could hear Mike, Scott, and Trenton packing up. I thought they were going to wait for me, but they weren't. They were packing up quickly. I come walking out of the tent. And I said, "You guys are leaving already?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we're leaving." Scott looked at me and goes, "Man, you snore a lot." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I was up all night." And he goes, "No, you weren't. You were snoring all the way through." And I was like, "Are you insane?" Mike turned around and said, "Scott, Patrick didn't snore once. He was awake because he was having all kinds of interaction." He's like, "What?" He goes, "No, that you heard yourself." Trenton spoke up and goes, "Yeah, Patrick didn't sleep once. It was you." And he was like, "I slept through everything." And he goes, "You slept through everything." Patrick was awake from, "Yeah, when did you go to sleep?" And I said, "I think I went to sleep around 7 because I finally went outside to go to the bathroom." And he goes, oh yeah. Sorry about that." I was like, "No, you never tell anybody they can't go to the bathroom. Even if there's a lot of activity, because you don't know what you're going to get into when you step out of that tent. If you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. Get it out of your system. Get it out. If you have another tent that has a portable toilet, walk out of that tent, walk into that one. They'll come visit you, even though you're sitting there. They'll come by and they'll sit and listen. You may not want that, but they're going to do that anyway. So the 3 things that happened with Mike and myself. First year, he said, "You had the craziest amount of experience I've ever heard anybody have." The second year, Mike said, "I don't believe you. I don't believe you had any of those experiences. I think it was all made up." Third year, "I can't believe you had all those experiences happening to you. And it's amazing that that all happened to you on that day." I said, "What are you talking about, Mike?" And he's like, "The thing that happened out at that event." And we talked. And I said, "You told me last year that you didn't believe me." He goes, "I said that?" And I said, "Yeah, you said that. That you totally did not believe me." Oh. And it was weird to hear him say, "I believe you. I don't believe you. I believe you." It's like he's pulling petals off of a flower, And it was just like, what's going on with you? I didn't understand it. But at the time, who cares? We went back out there a year later and I discovered something. Actually, I will talk about that event because I got a lot of videos that are attached to that. And I'm going to show those videos on the next installment, which will be on Sunday. Because, wait, what day is today? Today's Sunday. It'll be on Wednesday. Wednesday is when I'll start that event. Same location. More people. Actually, I think it was roughly the same amount of people. Jim was there for that one. There was a handful more people. And there was some crazy discoveries that Jeff Yellick and myself made. And there's a handful of interesting videos. I'm just going to put the videos in. Now, there's a lot of chatting going on between people. I know how to eliminate the sounds and put in music, and I might just do that because there's sensitive things that are being talked about locations and stuff, and I don't really want that out there. And it's not fair to Jeff. It's not fair to the CERT team members, if they're still a CERT team. It's not fair to them. So I won't let those words be said. But if it's just stuff that we're talking about, like structures and stuff, because there's things that I'm going to show you that just defy things all day long. It'll be intriguing. So that's the end of this video of this story. And like I said, I'm going to put the other part of that video of the guy's face, which is like this much of it, but imagine a window that's like this, and it's nothing but his head. From here, you'll see heavy set brows. You'll kind of see where the eyes are. You'll see the nose, and all of this takes up the size of my window, which is just bizarre. But that throws a new perspective on the people that don't believe. Again, the night vision camera can't shoot through plastic, which stinks. I wish it could, but it didn't, and it just gave me a kind of a snowy effect. But it's colorful, and you can actually see the silhouettes. Just don't sit there and expect to see hard, crisp lines for the jawline, for the nose and the eyes. It's not going to happen. Not on that video. My name is Patrick. This is Sasquatch in the Wild, and I'll see you on